Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And now that I am making this video, I can say that we have officially reached the end. I wonder if this is how Kevin Feige and the workers at Marvel feel when they reach the end of a phase. Because honestly, this is how I felt with the making of this multiverse storyline. To be honest, in the beginning, I really wasn't going to make this a part of the multiverse, simply because when I started this series back in July of last year, when we started with What If Spider-Man Was in ReZero, they were just fun little stories that I didn't really think I could connect in any way. But when we had the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, followed by the announcement of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and I saw where the Marvel Cinematic Universe was going with its story, I thought to myself, why not do something similar? So, I made together a roster, a team that I thought was unique in their own way, powers, and abilities. I did What If Spider-Man Was in ReZero. I did What If Tanjiro Had Venom. I did What If ISSEI from High School DxD was the Ghost Rider. I did What If Naruto Was Trained by Doctor Strange. What If Deku was Iron Man. What If Belle Cornell was Thor. And What If Captain America was in JOJO'S Bizarre Adventures. And most recently we completed What If Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2 became the Superior Spider-Man. So that's pretty much 8 different stories that I've been working on in total, all of them now gathered together and meeting for the epic crossover that you are going to be getting this week. But before we go into that, I want to briefly explain the story, the timeline. Try to make sure you guys are following along and make sure that everything is understood going forward. Now, this is just going to be a brief overview. You know, for a lot of you, you've been following the stories from the very beginning, so you already know what's been taking place and what's been going on. But this is just a way for you guys to be refreshed and to be caught up on everything. I'm not going to go into detail about every little thing that happens in the story, but I want to give you guys just a brief overview of what each story is and how it's all connected. So first, let's begin with where this story will be taking place. This story takes place in Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness. So the Doctor Strange that you're going to be seeing in this story is the one from the official MCU film. That's the one that you're going to be following. But you're going to be asking yourself, where do the other Doctor Stranges play a role? Well, officially, there are only 2 other Doctor Stranges. Well, technically 3, but they're all variants, and variants are basically just different versions of a character that differentiate from the original timeline. So now that we know where the story is going to take place, next is Loki, and why is Loki playing a factor? Well, my story officially takes place between Loki Season 1 and Season 2. Essentially what happened was, following the end of Loki 1, Loki is trying to get to the bottom of what's going on in the multiverse with the TVA. Originally, he was going to start his search for Kang, however, in the process of doing so, the events of Multiverse of Madness is taking place, so he decides to give that his attention. However, because he knows he is going to need strong allies, Loki looks into the multiverse and finds different variants of heroes, each with unique powers and abilities. That's a combination of an anime and a Marvel character that I have created. So first we begin with What If Spider-Man Was in ReZero. This story is as follows. Following the events of Infinity War, Spider-Man, along with the other heroes who were originally affected by Thanos' snap, are being dusted away. However, as Spider-Man is being dusted away, an event takes place. Being influenced by the Witch of Envy, Satella, Peter, instead of dying, has his soul sent to the world of ReZero. Now, this world of ReZero is a little different from the original series. For one, Subaru was already in this world. Essentially, Subaru got the isekai fantasy life that he always wanted. About a year before Peter arrived, Subaru arrived in Laguniga. Now, how he did it, I'm not going to explain because I really don't have a way of saying so. But any generic isekai way you want to say he did it, that's how he did it. However, he doesn't have a witch factor, he doesn't have anything like that. However, because he arrived a year early, it set off a chain of events where Subaru did things a lot different. He ends up befriending Emilia, and the two of them are already close. However, the year later, when he would have originally shown up, this is when Peter shows up instead, and things have been a bit tinkered. Roswald, attempting to get Emilia alone, ends up sending Subaru, who ended up training and becoming one of Emilia's knights. To try to separate the two of them, Subaru is sent off on some quest. That's why you don't see him till the end of the series. So Peter pretty much takes the place of Subaru with Return by Death and everything like that. This version of Spider-Man is from the MCU, so this is Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and he basically helps Emilia in her quest going through the various events of ReZero. Now, through ReZero up until the end of Season 1, in Spider-Man's universe, the snap is undone by the Hulk, so the few months that passed while Spider-Man was gone, that equated to the 5 years. So when the snap is undone, Peter is brought back to his world. However, this Peter is a lot more stronger than the Peter from the MCU. That's because not only does he have all of his spider skills, he also acquired learning how to fight with a sword, and he knows how to fight with wind spirits, having learned how to use wind magic from Puck. So, using this, he meets with his universe's Doctor Strange. And when he does so, they are able to go into a void where time does not affect them, so Peter can talk about Return by Death. He tells Doctor Strange everything that's going on, so the two of them have to try to figure something out while they fight against Thanos. The fight at Endgame happens like it does in the original, however this time Peter, being much stronger, takes the fight to Thanos. And because he wants to go back to the ReZero world because he developed feelings for Rem, he ends up doing the snap himself, causing him to die, and he uses Return by Death to return back to the world of ReZero, where we continue on through Season 2. Now because of that, this creates a universe where Iron Man is still alive, however Spider-Man is the one that died and sacrificed himself for the sake of the planet. Now the ReZero Spider-Man series continues on as normal till the very end of Season 2, and at that point we did the special movie that was No Way Home. Now in No Way Home, things are a little bit different, because our new Spider-Man, our ReZero Spider-Man, is basically summoned back to the MCU New York because of the spell cast by Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man of his world. But this Spider-Man is a lot different. Why? Because the Spider-Man that caused the spell was Miles Morales. Now you're going to be asking, how did Miles Morales exist in this world? What exactly happened? Well, I'll briefly explain. In the universe that our ReZero Spider-Man was summoned to, the MCU was shaped a lot differently. In this version of the MCU, Spider-Man was a lot older, around or near the age of Iron Man and Captain America. Not that much older, maybe about 10 years younger than them, give or take. Iron Man died in the events of Avengers 1, and Spider-Man, who had Parker Industries in this universe, ended up becoming the new Iron Man pretty much, with Parker Industries kind of filling in where Stark Industries used to. He pretty much filled in that role. Everything in the MCU played out pretty much the same up until the point of the snap, and because an older Spider-Man had taken the place of Iron Man, he again does the snap and ends up dying. And the person who he was mentoring, instead of it being a younger Peter Parker Spider-Man, it would be a Miles Morales. This version of Miles kind of has a similar life to the original Peter. His father died because of his inactions, and basically he's embroiled in a feud with the Kingpin, who also ended up killing his uncle, Aaron Davis, who was the Prowler, a former supercriminal. Now, when our ReZero Peter is sent to this world, he's shocked to learn that while things are similar, things are very different. However, the story of No Way Home plays out pretty much similarly to how it did in the original. However, in this universe, we have an older Ned along with an older MJ and an older Aunt May. In this universe, when the older Spider-Man died, he was survived by MJ and their daughter, Mayday Parker, who have pretty much been helping Miles this whole time. However, by the end of the series, we end up getting a showdown between the Spider-Men and the villains. The villains also include two villains from the ReZero universe, that being Betelgeuse as well as Elsha, the Bow Hunter. Now, in this universe, they end up curing all of the villains, including Elsha as well as Betelgeuse, although the Green Goblin does temporarily steal the Unseen Hands and attempts to use them to fight off against all four of the Spider-Men. However, the Goblin is defeated and the Witch Factor is taken from him, and Miles in this universe decides to make the wish for everyone to forget who he is. So in this universe, Miles pretty much takes the role that Tom Holland's Spider-Man did, and our ReZero Spider-Man ends up going back home. That is until Loki, who sees him through the many multiverses, decides to recruit him. And that is the What If Spider-Man Was in ReZero summarized. Then next, we have What If Tanjiro Had Venom. Now, this isn't really all that complicated. In this universe, the symbiote planet is very similar to the one from the Sonyverse Venom series. The symbiotes that do manage to survive the planet's destruction all go to different parts of the galaxy. The capsule that carries Venom is sent to the Earth. This is the universe where Demon Slayer takes place. So Venom crashes into Japan during the same time when Tanjiro's family is killed by Muzan. As the result of the two of them running into one another, Tanjiro bonds with Venom and becomes one with the symbiote. Now with this, the story of Demon Slayer pretty much remains the same, simply that Tanjiro now has Venom that he can use to amplify his strength, speed, and other skills in combat. And he also came up with Venom breathing techniques, which is similar to all the other breathing techniques, but because Venom is adapting to Tanjiro, they form that bond. Also, as a side note, in this universe, Venom likes to eat duck, like cooked duck, roasted duck, sesame duck, all types of duck. He even eats it raw. That's to replace Venom eating chocolate. Now, because Tanjiro has Venom, he is a lot stronger in this timeline. As a result, a lot of fights that didn't go in Tanjiro's favor does. I won't go into detail about every little fight that happens, but just know that in this universe, Rengoku ends up surviving, and also Tengen doesn't lose his arm. However, Venom does end up giving birth to an offspring. This happens when Tanjiro is bitten on the hand by a criminal who they meet while they are passing in a city. This is a variant of Cletus Cassidy, who bites Tanjiro and ends up becoming Carnage in this universe as well. However, this Carnage has a special ability that also allows him to resist the influence of Muzan Kibutsuji, the king of the demon, even when he becomes a demon himself. And while we have covered the first two seasons, I am still laying the groundwork for a three-way final battle, that being between Tanjiro, Carnage, and Muzan. Kind of like a three-way deadlock, so to speak. But that's the main focus for What If Tanjiro Had Venom. I hadn't introduced any other symbiotes, mainly because I kind of don't like the idea of giving everyone a symbiote, and I really just want to focus on the bond between Carnage and Cletus Cassidy, paralleling that of Tanjiro and Venom. Now, if I did give out one more symbiote, then it would go to Muzan, but that would honestly be it. But still, there's more story to tell, and that's something that I hope to come back to in a later date and time. Then number 3, we have What If Issei Hyodo Was the Ghost Rider? This is Ghost Rider crossover High School DxD. Now, this crossover took a lot of work, mainly because a lot of things change in this timeline. For one, we have Irina Shido. You know her as the lovable angel from High School DxD. Now, in this universe, when Irina's parents died, instead of Irina going off to wherever she went to, she is taken in by the Hyodo family, and she's pretty much raised with Issei. They're kind of like siblings, but honestly, by the time she was taken in by the family, they were already old enough to know that they weren't siblings, so they don't have like a brother-sister complex. And Irina, she still has feelings for Issei, and she still likes him. In this universe, Issei has a thing for cars. He likes to work on cars, and he likes to drive cars. And he likes to use the Japanese style of racing cars and things of that nature. So essentially, while Irina and Issei are both in high school, this is where the change occurs. In this universe, Issei is not born with the power of the Red Dragon Emperor. Instead, Irina is. And the two of them find themselves under attack by Rainier, the fallen angel, who was hired to attack them by Lady Mephisto. That's right, Mephisto in this universe is a woman, and it'll all make sense soon enough. So essentially, Issei and Irina end up getting into a car crash when they're being chased by Rainier, who ended up killing Issei's parents and having their souls trapped by Lady Mephisto. In the midst of the car crash, Rainier thought that the two of them had died, and here Lady Mephisto and Michael would appear at the crash. When they do so, they each take their respective child for their own reasons. Michael takes Irina so that she can be resurrected as an angel and trained to use her power, since she is now the Red Dragon Empress, who is an angel, while Issei is taken by Lady Mephisto and he is reborn as a Ghost Rider. Also in this universe, we have Johnny Cash, who is one of the Ghost Riders, the second Ghost Rider behind Nick Cage. No, not Nick Cage, excuse me. I forgot his name. Johnny Blaze, that's it. Johnny Blaze. You have Johnny Cash, and then you have Johnny Blaze. And in this universe, what happens is that Issei is recruited by Lady Mephisto to be the next Ghost Rider because she had a premonition about Issei becoming the Ghost Rider and his role in saving the multiverse. That's why she makes him the Ghost Rider. However, Issei isn't too fond of this idea at first, and he wants to break free of being the Ghost Rider, while also trying to track down and find Irina as well. Now, a few changes do occur in this universe. Because Issei is the Ghost Rider, he has a bit more of a hothead and a bit more of a violent side. Also, he doesn't join the House of Grimmery officially, meaning that even though Rias made the offer for him to join, he has kind of been putting it off to the wayside to focus on his own thing, although he does help them out from time to time when he can. He didn't compete in the rating game in Season 1, but he did help save Rias by beating the crap out of Riser using his power of the Ghost Rider, which is an incredible power to say the least. Now, at the end of Season 1, Issei makes a deal with Lady Mephisto to buy his freedom. Basically, the rule is that she will allow his parents' souls to go to heaven, and he agrees to bring in 99 of the most vile souls on Earth. That includes human, demon, other creature, the 99 most evil souls on Earth, and he has to bring in Blackheart. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the Marvel comic universe, Blackheart is a evil demon who is the son of Mephisto. However, Blackheart does not have a soul, so he is very hard to kill, even by Mephisto's standards. But in this universe, because we have Lady Mephisto, Blackheart is basically her son, like her actual son, who turned out to be evil, and he needs to be brought in because Blackheart has a habit of killing a lot of the Ghost Riders, including his father, Johnny Blaze. The only one who had managed to survive was Johnny Cash, and even then, he's still a shell of what he used to be. He now serves as a bodyguard to Lady Mephisto. So the story is basically about Issei capturing the 99 souls and attempting to bring in Blackheart. While a few things do change about this universe, a lot of things remain the same. For one, Volley in this universe is not a part of the Chaos Brigade, but he is instead still a part of the Fallen Angel Squad that is with Azazel. Also, Issei in this timeline, again, does not join the House of Gremory, but instead he does his own thing. Also, instead of it being that Issei is chasing after Rias, Rias is basically chasing after Issei, so you change that dynamic also. And Rhaenyra survives too. Rhaenyra has her own story, you can go listen to that if you want to, but essentially the story revolves around Issei attempting to bring in Blackheart, which he eventually does, and by the end of the series, he too is recruited by Loki to join his team of Multiverse Avengers. Then fourth, you have What If Naruto Was Trained by Doctor Strange. This is where we meet the second variant of Doctor Strange. This takes place during a time where Doctor Strange, after the events of Doctor Strange 1, is still learning how to be the Sorcerer Supreme and all that good stuff. While fighting with the mindless ones, a few of them end up jumping from one dimension to another, which so happens to be Naruto's dimension, about 2 years before the start of the Naruto series, which corresponds to when Doctor Strange ended in 2016. So you have a 2-year time period for both Doctor Strange and Naruto. For Naruto, you have a 2-year time period before the start of the Naruto series, and for Doctor Strange, you have a 2-year time period before the start of Avengers Infinity War. Doctor Strange, after defeating the mindless ones, ends up meeting a young Naruto in the forest, and seeing that the boy has potential and could use someone to kind of guide him in a sense, Doctor Strange decides to take Naruto as a student, helping him in other areas since magic and chakra are similar but different in a lot of ways. Naruto becoming more balanced and a lot more skilled as a fighter, learning how to use magic and ninjutsu, although he does lean towards the mystic art side of things. Naruto would then go on in his series after the events of the 2-year time skip, when Doctor Strange pretty much completes their training, and just as Naruto had his training completed and he starts his series, the events of Infinity War start, and that plays out exactly the same, so Doctor Strange wouldn't see Naruto for another 5 years. Naruto in this universe is a mystic user, which gives him a leg up on a lot of the competition. On top of the mystic arts, Naruto also has a sling ring. However, this was specially made by Doctor Strange. Naruto's sling ring can work by opening portals anywhere in the Naruto universe that Naruto has already been to. However, what Naruto can't do is open a portal to another universe. The ring was made specifically to only work in the Naruto-verse, and that was to make sure that Naruto didn't accidentally get himself lost in another dimension and then he can't find his way home. So the story of Naruto plays out a lot differently, with Naruto being a lot stronger. A lot of the battles that didn't go in his favor end up doing so as we go into the new timeline. Also, in this universe, Haku is a girl, not a boy, and she ends up being Naruto's main love interest. Also, Haku and Zabuza end up surviving the Land of Waves arc, and they end up going back to the Hidden Leaf Village, where they become Hidden Leaf Shinobi. Also, in this universe, Loki has his eyes on Naruto, but he also has his eyes on someone else, that being Sasuke. Because Sasuke is defeated and he doesn't go with Orochimaru, Loki decides to hide in the shadows, and he trains Sasuke in using Asgardian magic. So Loki wants to play a role, and he ends up training Sasuke in secret during the Naruto time skip. And the reason for this is to make sure that there are strong allies who they can call upon to fight in the future. Also, in this Naruto universe, there are a variant or two who are running around. One of them is an older version of Agatha Harkness. Yes, this is the Agatha Harkness from the WandaVision series. This version of Agatha came from a world that pretty much got destroyed by the Scarlet Witch, and she needed to find a place to hide, so she chose this universe. Unknowingly, a same universe where a version of Naruto would be trained by Doctor Strange. Now, Agatha plays a role in this universe because she ends up training Sakura, who, by extension of learning from Naruto, shows that she can use chaos magic just like Scarlet Witch. So Agatha plays a role in training Sakura, while Loki secretly plays a role in training Sasuke, and Naruto, he's trained by Doctor Strange, and during the Naruto time skip, he is trained by Wong, who is the new Sorcerer Supreme. Also, Jiraiya gets some training in magic also. Although he's not nearly as reliant on it as Naruto is, he is trained in the basics because he can pick up on those things. Because of this, Naruto is a lot stronger in this timeline, and as a result, he ends up becoming a lot more skilled, and he is able to win a lot more of his fights. Also, in the process of this, Naruto does not end up getting Sage of Six Paths Chakra mode, and because of the events of this series, Itachi ends up surviving as well, along with Sasuke quelling his revenge as the Uchiha brothers would get vengeance against Danzo and help fight against the Akatsuki during the Fourth Great Ninja War. Now, even though Sasuke does not get Sage of Six Paths or the Rinne Sharingan, and Naruto only has one half of the Nine Tails, magic is a very, very powerful source of energy. Magic can make a regular human surpass Naruto level characters. So what Naruto and Sasuke lack in their Sage of Six Paths powers, magic more than makes up for it in this series. And by the end of it, the events of Avengers Endgame from the Doctor Strange of this world still take place like before, except this time when Doctor Strange comes back, he recruits Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura to help him in the final battle against Thanos. I was going to make a video on that, but honestly, I just never got around to it. But I will say this is what does happen. Because you have a Naruto, Sasuke, and a Sakura who are a lot more powerful, who all know a version of the mystic arts, they back up the Avengers and they help them destroy Thanos' army. Ant-Man is able to send all the stones back to where they originally came from, so that plan isn't destroyed. Naruto and Sasuke end up destroying Thanos, which really wouldn't have been all that difficult for them to do anyway. And this honestly produces the best timeline, because almost all of the heroes, the main heroes, end up surviving. Iron Man survives, Spider-Man survives. That means the events of Spider-Man Far From Home, that doesn't really happen the same. The events of Spider-Man No Way Home, that doesn't happen in this universe either, because the wish is never needed to be made. So this is honestly the best outcome. And by the end of the series, Naruto is recruited to join the Multiverse Avengers. Then number 5, you have What If Deku Was Iron Man? Now, this series was a bit of an inspiration. I took inspiration from Iron Man Armored Adventures and from the Iron Man animated series from the 90s, as well as MCU Iron Man. Now, this universe, there are variants of Marvel characters, although they all pretty much come from the Armored Adventures series, although there is a young version of Shang-Chi who ends up befriending Deku. In this universe, Deku and Shang-Chi have to work together to keep the 10 Makuan rings from the hands of the Mandarin. Now, these are not the 10 rings from the Shang-Chi movie. I'm talking about the 10 Makuan rings used by the Mandarin from the classic Marvel comics, the rings that go on each finger and each thumb, respectively. It's basically a race for the rings. I used the Armored Adventures version of Black Panther. He also is in this series as well. Pretty young, and he's also helping to try to keep the 10 rings safe as well. And Shinso, he does end up becoming the Hawkeye of this world. as well as Melissa Shields, who takes up being a hero. She ends up creating Pym particles in this world, and she becomes the Wasp. As far as who got one for all in this universe, it's Momo, and this is a Momo x Deku story, because Deku's life to become Iron Man is a lot different. There is no Stark Industries, there is no Iron Man. This is just a universe where Deku ended up taking the role of Iron Man and basically taking the role of Tony Stark in this universe. So that's pretty much the main juxt of the series. Then number 6, we have What If Bel Crenel Was Thor? This is pretty much straightforward. In the world of Danmachi, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls While in a Dungeon, you have the gods who are basically living on Earth with the humans, and the humans explore the dungeon to fight the monsters, trying to become heroes. Well, basically 500 years ago, before the start of this series, Thor fought against Gore, the God Butcher. The two of them fought to a stalemate. Gore was sealed away on a dark island, and Thor, his hammer, was hidden on Earth because Thor pretty much died and moved on to the heavens. Now, by the time Bel comes along, Bel ends up discovering the hammer, and the hammer picks Bel, choosing him to be worthy. So Bel becomes Thor, and we go through pretty much the first 3 seasons of Danmachi as Bel learns to use the power of Thor. Now, Bel does have Mjolnir in this story, but Mjolnir is a lot different. This Mjolnir is made from 7 ancient weapons, or basically 7 different weapons that Thor has used throughout his run, from the comics to the cartoons, TV shows, things of that nature. So in its first form, you have Mjolnir. Second form, you have Stormbreaker. Third form, you have the Odin Sword. In its fourth form, you have the Asgardian Shield, which is basically a shield, kind of like Captain America's, that Bel can throw around, but it can also generate lightning as well. And there are still 3 other weapons that he hasn't unlocked yet, but that he will unlock in the future. So basically, think of Bel having Mjolnir. Mjolnir is kind of like a living Omnitrix that Bel can transform into different powerful weapons whenever he needs them. Also, instead of having Firebolt, Bel pretty much uses lightning and thunder, those type of techniques. And Bel, now that he has Mjolnir, he is slowly transforming from human to hero to god. So that's kind of the story that I'm telling with this. Again, it's not complete right now, and I know that with Thor 4, Love and Thunder recently came out, you saw how Gore the God Butcher was used in that series. I'm going to take inspiration from that story, but I'm going to do it in my own way. Danmachi Season 4, it's coming out around a week or so. It's actually supposed to be coming out right now. So after Season 4 is complete, I plan to do Season 4, then I do the movie, and that'll be finished. However, at the end of Season 3, which is how far the story is so far, Bel, after his latest adventure, he is met by Loki, the Loki that's been recruiting people, not the Loki from Danmachi, who is a girl. So you can say that that version of Loki from Danmachi is actually a variant, and Bel is pretty much recruited to join the Multiverse Avengers. Then finally, we have What If Captain America Was in JOJO'S Bizarre Adventures. This is pretty much straightforward. It's a combination of a version of the MCU along with JOJO'S Bizarre Adventures, where the stories are all taking place at the times that they do. So by the time we get to part 2 of JOJO'S Bizarre Adventures, which takes place during World War II, Captain America would also be involved in the fight. Captain America, Steve Rogers, grew up in New York and was friends with Joseph Joestar. The two of them being close friends, when Captain America gets the super soldier serum, instead of joining the US Army, he instead backs up Joseph as the two of them go on their adventures to try to defeat the Pillar Men, which ends up intersecting with the US Army, with Peggy Carter, with Howard Stark, and Bucky, and the like, along with Caesar Zappelli, as they form their own team trying to stop not only the Red Skull and Hydra, but also the Pillar Men. So it's kind of like a 3-way fight, not only for the Red Aja Stone, but also for the Tesseract. Now, the fight pretty much goes similarly, although in this universe, Captain America does learn to use Hamon breathing, making him a lot more powerful and skilled, as he can channel Hamon into his shield when he throws it. This ultimately leads to the Red Skull being defeated along with Cars and the Pillarmen by both Joseph and Captain America. Captain America does not go into the ice, but instead he ends up surviving along with Joseph, and he ends up marrying Peggy Carter, where they end up founding S.H.I.E.L.D. Because Steve Rogers is involved in the founding of S.H.I.E.L.D., S.H.I.E.L.D. does not become taken over by Hydra agents. Eventually, we are led into part 3 of JOJO'S, where Stans end up taking a role. After the events of part 2, Captain America needed a blood transfusion, and he got some blood from Joseph. That's how Captain America is able to gain his stand, which is Blue Liberty. Briefly explaining, Blue Liberty is basically a stand that looks like Captain America in his hero uniform, along with a shield made out of energy. This was what his shield used to be, although his shield basically transformed into a stand. And it has 2 functions. The first function is that Captain America can summon his Mystic Shield. This is a shield that's pretty much like any other type of stand, and he can summon it from any part of his body, or he can use it to make a dome around himself or others, or he can create multiple energy shields to block things from different locations. The second function, he can summon Blue Liberty, that is his stand. However, it does come at a cost. If he summons Blue Liberty, his body is stripped of the super soldier serum, and he pretty much becomes an ordinary human. However, when Blue Liberty disappears, the serum and the strength of the serum returns back to Captain America. So that's kind of like the trade-off with his powers. In this universe, we end up having the Joestar team that go off to hunt for Dio in Egypt and defeat him. Also in this universe, we do have another variant that I added to the series. This is a variant of Moon Knight, where he exists a lot earlier in the MCU, and basically he's here for the story, and he accompanies the team to fight Dio, and his stand is Khonshu. In this universe, the only people that ended up dying was Iggy and Kokoyoin, but other than that, everyone else ends up surviving, and Dio is defeated. Following the events of part 3, Captain America, as he goes into retirement, even though he is still pretty much fit with the serum, he is a lot older, and he is grooming Nick Fury to take over the spot as the next leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is recruited by Loki and the others as the final member of the Multiverse Avengers. So that's pretty much the quick summary of how the Multiverse Avengers are formed. But that leads me to one more story. What if Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 became the Superior Spider-Man? This is a little side story that I wanted to do for you guys' enjoyment. In this universe, which is a variant of the Sam Raimi universe, at the end of Spider-Man 2, instead of leaving Doc Ock to bring the machine down by himself, Peter goes back to help Doc Ock destroy the machine as they both try to bring it down and drown it into the river. However, as they both try to drag it into the river, the machine goes off, causing a large explosion, and through a weird chain of events, they end up switching consciousness. This follows similarly to the Superior Spider-Man storyline, where Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus ended up switching bodies, and Dr. Octopus took over as the new Spider-Man, or as the Superior Spider-Man. Now, because of Doc Ock from the Sam Raimi universe, he ends up being placed in the body of Peter Parker, although he does have Peter Parker's experiences. And he vows to use his second chance at life to become a better person, and to be a better Spider-Man, to become the Superior Spider-Man. So in this universe, he does things a lot differently, does it his own way. He fights some new villains, but also some same ones as well. For the most part, everything pretty much stays the same, except there are some key differences. This version of Spider-Man, as I'll call him, does not get married to MJ. MJ ends up getting married to J. Jonah Jameson's son, and they end up moving. This version of Spider-Man also starts a relationship with Felicia Hardy, who we know is also the Black Cat. While he does have his fight with Harry, Harry is still convinced of his innocence. Also, in this universe, Venom does not end up coming into form because Peter ends up quitting from the Daily Bugle, and Otto, who is using his genius, ends up founding Parker Industries, making Peter a lot more money and giving him the resources to be a better Spider-Man. As a result, the symbiote ends up bonding to a variant that is Cletus Cassidy, so instead we get Carnage. Sandman, he does end up fighting Spider-Man about 3 times, but at the end, the two of them join forces to save the day at a hospital that Carnage is attempting to cause a mass serial killing. That's also where Sandman's daughter was for her treatment. And in the midst of the battle, Harry, Spider-Man, and Sandman, they join together to defeat and kill Carnage. Sandman sacrifices himself to kill Carnage and save their lives and the lives of his daughter. At the end of the series, they find a symbiote egg that hosts the Venom symbiote. Harry gives up being the Goblin and instead he becomes Venom, or a black suited Spider-Man, and both he and Peter end up watching over New York. At the end of this series though, there is a key difference. Instead of being recruited by Loki, Superior Spider-Man is recruited by the Reed Richards that we see from the Multiverse of Madness to join the Illuminati. So that's where he will play a role in the Multiverse of Madness. But with that, that briefly summarizes everything that you need to know before we go into our main crossover storyline. That story is going to be coming later on this week. It's going to be coming this Friday, actually. And I want to take this moment to say thank you. And the reason why I want to say thank you is because when I started this channel about a year ago, when I started the revamp of Power Core, I didn't have more than 500 subscribers to my name. And honestly, I wasn't sure of how big we were going to be. But now, a year later, we have gone from a few hundred to 500. And now we're almost at 2,500. And that really means a lot to me. You know, I say this all the time. I'm just a guy that records videos, you know. The encouragement, the support, the love, it truly means everything to me because in the end of the day, I want to make better content than even this. You know, right now, I'm just recording on the top of my sink in my bathroom with a little microphone stand. That's kind of all I've got to work with right now. I got a little computer hookup, but that's about it. So truly, it means a lot to me that you guys take the time to listen to my videos, to listen to my stories, to listen to what I have to say. Whether I'm happy, sad, even when I'm feeling sick, you know, I think about you guys and, you know, just getting out this content. And so it truly means a lot to me that, you know, I've been able to work on this story for a whole year. And now I get to see it all pay off in the final installment. And I know you guys are going to ask, you know, will there be more Marvel series? Is this the end? No, you're going to see this team again in the future, hopefully, and for many more stories to come. But after this, I am going to take a break. Actually, I'm going on a little bit of a hiatus for a bit to rest. And when I come back, I want to work on some new stuff. I want to do some new things. So I'm not going to be coming back to a lot of these series for a bit. But trust and believe, when I do, I'll be revamped, motivated, and ready to go. And I'll be ready to create a lot more memories and a lot more stories for you guys for years to come. So as always, thank you, everyone. I can't do it without you. You make the channel grow. You make the core grow. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time. Bye.